Bonjour, Kinamagi and Ireland Indignicus, and welcome to this episode of Social Studies Explorer. Today's episode, Chapter 6, Section 3, The Battle of Bunker Hill. An open book program here on page 135. And it begins with a question. How do you feel after losing a game? Are you excited and happy? Does it give you the warm and tinglies? Probably not. But we're going to read on to find out why the Patriots were happy after losing the next battle of the Revolutionary War, known as the Battle of Bunker Hill. You see an image from that battle, the redcoats in the red marching up the hill. Our text. The new leader, Washington, headed to Boston to take command of his new army. On his way, he learned that the Battle of Bunker Hill had been fought. It had taken place on June 17, 1775, just a few months after the start of the American Revolutionary War. American forces learned that the British were planning to take over the hills around Boston in order to gain a geographic advantage. As a result of this information, the Americans secretly moved their troops onto Bunker and Breed's Hill, two unoccupied hills just outside of Boston in Charlestown, Massachusetts. The Patriot commander, William Prescott, decided at the last minute to go to Breed's Hill and fortify or strengthen it because it was closer to Boston. The next morning, the British saw what they were up to and started bombarding the hill with cannon fire. The Patriots watched and waited, repeating to themselves the order Colonel Prescott had given them. Don't one of you fire until you see the whites of their eyes. The order came, and the Patriot shots sent the British soldiers reeling. The British were forced to retreat, turn around and go back. Most fighting took place on Breed's Hill, but this battle became known as the Battle of Bunker Hill. Though it was a British victory, this battle cost them many casualties. Patriots in this early battle had stood up to the greatest army in the world. They had taken a stand. You can look at this map here, and it's not a very large map, but Charlestown right here. And you can see that there's a lot of water areas. And we have those fortifications. Here's the British, where they could pound on it. There's Bunker Hill, Breed's Hill. You see a few other hills along the path here. The idea in war being that if you're on a hill, it's easier to shoot down than shoot up, especially in an era where there were no airplanes. So you had two options: bombardment by marine vessel or marching up the hill with your muskets and bayonets. So let's watch a video clip from YouTube, the Revolutionary War in 4 minutes. This one's on Bunker Hill.
After the Lexington Alarm of April 19, 1775, 20,000 militiamen and Minutemen groups from across all of New England converged on Massachusetts and Boston in particular. They were outraged, they were angry, and they bottled up the British inside the city. By the middle of June, their numbers had swollen to the point that General Thomas Gage was concerned about their presence outside of the city. They were led by General Artemas Ward, who was head of the Massachusetts Committee of Safety, who on the night of June 15th and 16th ordered his forces forward to this position on Breed's Hill, which we erroneously call Bunker's Hill. His men erected a fortification on this hill that in the morning when the British woke up, looked out, were stunned, and knew something had to be done. After a council of war with his subordinates, William Howe, Henry Clinton, and John Burgoyne, General Thomas Gage made a decision. He was going to attack the American position located on Breed's Hill. And on the afternoon of June 17, 1775, which was an incredibly hot and humid day, Thousands of British grenadiers and regulars embarked across Boston Harbor, disembarked on the shores of Charlestown, and began to assault the American positions here at Bunker Hill. Led by the courageous General William Howe, the British marched off in cadence to drum beats and assaulted the American position. Thousands of British grenadiers and regulars massed in formation at the bottom of this hill. Inside the American fort, American militiamen trained their eyes and they knew the big fight was coming. They could see the gleaming bayonets, they could see the red coats. Allegedly, Colonel William Prescott, one of the defenders inside the fort, ordered his men to not fire until they saw the whites of their eyes. The British marched up in cadence, step by step, inch by inch. They got closer and closer and closer. And when they got within musket range, the Americans issued a withering volley that dropped the British in their ranks in their place, and they retreated back to where they started. Once more, the British marched up the hill. Again, this time, stepping over dead and wounded comrades, they made their assault on the American position. And once again, the Americans fired a withering volley into their ranks. The British once more retreated to their original lines. Finally, on a third assault, again marching over their dead and dying comrades, the British were able to penetrate the American forces, and a severe and fierce firefight broke out inside the fortification. Inside the fortification were several African Americans, including Peter Salem, who saw an officer. He drew a bead on the officer, fired his gun, and took down Major John Pitcairn, who had gained infamy during the battles of Lexington and Concord. The Americans broke and ran, but not because they were afraid, but because they had run out of powder and shot. The British won the field, but as Henry Clinton had said, it was a dear-bought victory. After the Battle of Bunker Hill, reconciliation between the American colonies and Great Britain was no longer possible. Benjamin Franklin wrote a friend in England, "We were once friends, we are now enemies." The war had taken a fateful turn.
So after we have now watched the video, done a little reading, why were the Patriots happy about this battle, even though they actually lost? Well, when you really don't think you have a chance and you fight what's widely viewed as the greatest army in the world, pretty much step for step, you sustain less casualties. You start to say, well, you know what? Maybe we can give these guys a run. So your confidence grows that despite the loss, that you might actually have a chance. What did Colonel Prescott mean by don't one of you fire until you see the whites of their eyes? This is not unlimited ammo days. You have to have powder. You have to have musket balls. And what's common in war is just random shooting. He didn't want that. He wanted to wait till the soldiers were close enough, the redcoats in particular, that you have a fairly decent chance of hitting one of them. Remember, musket balls require some skill to aim. Final question. How do you feel about historical videos that use humor as a vehicle to help you learn the facts? I support it. I attempt to be funny. I think I'm funny. I know I'm funny. Maybe. Maybe not. We've reached the conclusion of this video. You should return to the Google Classroom for any further instruction. Have a minogijigad, minwa, bamapi.